In ancient China, there was a great hero, Suiren, who was celebrated by countless people in later generations. He lived in the Shangqiu area of today's China. The people of that era had not yet learned to harness the power of fire, and lived in an extremely primitive state. They ate their prey like wild animals, knew nothing about the warmth and illumination of fire, and lived in darkness and cold. However, Suiren, the leader of the tribe, was not only a brave and wise hunter, but also the spiritual pillar and leader of the tribe. He knew that only by breaking away from the status quo could the tribe move towards a brighter and more prosperous future. Whenever the first rays of the morning sun penetrate the mist of the forest, Suiren would gather his people, armed with primitive hunting tools made of stone and bone, and step into the depths of the vast and mysterious forest. This forest was the guarantee of their livelihood, providing food and resources, but it was also full of unknown dangers and challenges. In this age without fire, every sound in the forest could be the edge of life and death. But with his bravery and wisdom, Suiren became the most outstanding hunter in the tribe. His knowledge of the forest and his skill in tracking prey earned him the deep respect and trust of his people. Although Suiren was able to lead the tribe in successful hunts, whenever night fell and the winds were bitterly cold, every member of the tribe could only rely on each other's body heat to ward off the cold. In such an environment, life was extremely hard. Suiren began to think deeply about how he could change all this and bring more warmth and light to his tribe. He began to observe and think, looking for inspiration from everyday life. He noticed that heat was generated and animal carcasses decayed under certain conditions. He also discovered that the sun was able to dry out damp wood, thus indirectly providing warmth. These phenomena of nature sparked his boundless imagination, and he was convinced that there must exist some way in which similar warmth and light could be artificially created. The turning point of fate came during an ordinary hunting trip. The sky suddenly became cloudy, thunder roared, and a bolt of lightning struck a huge tree with unerring accuracy. In that moment, heaven and earth seemed to stand still, followed by a blazing fire that the tree ignited, glowing brightly and illuminating everything around it. The flames raged like a wild beast, instantly devouring everything combustible. After the thunder and lightning, the forest was turned into a scorched earth, and when Flint and his clan returned to the scene after the fire had subsided, they were deeply shocked by the sight before them. Those prey they usually chased were now fragrant roasted food, an experience they had never had before. Out of curiosity and hunger, Suiren carefully tried a piece of roasted meat, and the aroma immediately filled his senses, and for the first time he tasted such a wonderful flavor. Unlike raw meat that was cold and hard, this roasted meat melted in his mouth, fragrant but not greasy, bringing him an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. At that moment, it was as if Suiren had opened the door to a new world, and he realized that the value of fire was much more than that. He began to think that if he could control this fire from the sky, then they could enjoy such delicious food at any time and no longer be limited to eating their prey raw. What's more, the fire could also provide warmth on cold nights, drive away wild beasts and keep them safe. Flint's heart was filled with determination. He had to find a way to master this magical power. During those long days, Flint and his people kept trying, hoping to capture the escaped fire again. However, despite the great efforts they put in, success remained elusive. Until one day, fate once again opened a new chapter for them. Just as the sun was about to set, a gigantic and incomparable divine bird appeared in the sky, with radiant feathers that seemed to contain the warmth and light of daylight in every single one of them. The bird landed proudly in front of Flint, and told him in a deep voice that it would take him to a mysterious and fire-filled place. With his heart filled with both excitement and nervousness, Suiren did not hesitate to follow this great bird through the layers of clouds and mists to the unknown sky. During the flight, he saw a magnificent scenery that he had never seen before, mountains and rivers shrinking into thin lines under his feet, and the sea of clouds churning, as if he had entered another world. Eventually, they arrived at the legendary heavenly palace, which was brilliantly golden and immortal, very different from the world on earth. An immortal, dressed in flowing robes, greeted the flint stones. The immortal's gaze revealed compassion and wisdom as he told Suiren that as the leader of the earth, he had the right to bring back to earth any treasure he chose from the heavenly palace. Standing in the heavenly palace full of treasures, Suiren looked around, but only one thing fascinated him: fire. The fire here was different from what he had seen on earth. It was purer, fiercer, and seemed to contain infinite power. Without any hesitation, the flint chose fire. He understood that the fire was not only a source of warmth and illumination, but also the key to the progress of civilization. The immortal smiled and handed him a magical fire, while warning him that he must use it carefully and not let it get out of control, or it would bring disaster. With this heavenly gift, Suiren resumed his journey back to Earth. When Suiren returned to Earth, the mysterious thing he brought back was not fire as ordinary people understand it, but a strange flint, which was rough on the surface and emitted a faint light, as if it contained an unawakened power. At first, Suiren was not sure how to use this gifted treasure, and his many attempts to rub it with his hands and even to strike it hard failed to draw out the fire in it. This confused and frustrated him, but he did not give up, convinced that this stone was the key to changing the fate of the tribe. One day, just at dusk, as the sun was about to set over the horizon, Flint was in the center of the tribe contemplating the use of the fire stone. His eyes fell on the dry grass aside, and an idea suddenly flashed through his mind: what if he used strength and speed to awaken the fire in the stone? So he lifted the flint stone high in the air and then slammed it with all his might against a large rock. This time, his action stirred up sparks which fell on the dry grass and instantly ignited the tiny flame. At that moment, it was as if Flint had been struck by lightning, and a light of shock and joy flashed in his eyes. He finally understood that the secret of the fire was hidden in this seemingly ordinary flint, and that it needed the help of external forces and the right materials to stimulate its power. This discovery was not just about the control of fire, but also a deep understanding of the relationship between power, speed, and materials. In the days that followed, Flint began to teach his people how to use flint and proper striking techniques to rub out sparks and how to gather materials suitable for ignition. The tribesmen learned, and little by little they were able to light their fires with ease, use fire to cook their food, use firelight to brighten the night, and use the heat of the fire to ward off the cold. Fire, this once unattainable miracle, became an indispensable part of their daily life. This discovery by Suiren not only changed his tribe, but also influenced tribes far away and promoted the development of human civilization over the long years. His name and story became a legacy and revelation, inspiring the people who came after him to keep exploring the mysteries of nature and the courage to change the face of life. This is another story that proves the spirit of human wisdom and innovation, demonstrating mankind's desire and respect for knowledge and technological mastery. The legend of Suiren has become a monumental chapter in the history of mankind and will always be remembered.